And guys, we're back. Welcome to Dacob in Between. So I wanted to talk to you about something that's going to happen, or that's something that's happening already now this season. So we are September of 2021. Fashion weeks are all over the world. You know, fashion is a greedy monster of a concoction. It just wants money and fame, more money and more fame. So a lot of these brands are trying to push it as much as they can, produce as much as they can, despite the fact that we, the people, have moved on. We're ready for something new, something different, not over consumptuous, but they don't care. They just want money from us. So they're going as quickly as they can back to fashion shows, full-blown fashion shows with guests. In the fashion shows. So this means that Paris Fashion Week, which is just coming up in a couple of weeks from now, some fashion brands have announced that they're going back to physical fashion shows, full-blown physical fashion shows with an audience attending, whether it be open air or enclosed space. They're ready for it. They're dying for it. Okay. So let's see who they are. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and thumb up this video if you haven't already. So that's stuff to consider. And get your superdacob merch on www.superdacob.com. Drink not included, just the glasses. So we're returning to this live format, and I'm really curious to see how that's going to play out, because Fashion Week is coming up just in a couple of weeks in Paris. Okay, New York is already doing its shenanigans right now, which is what a travesty. I mean, let me know if there's any shows from New York that you've enjoyed thus far for Spring Summer 22. But so 27th of September to the 5th of October is Paris Fashion Week. There will be around about 37 brands hosting, shows with live audiences. Now, there's still going to be a couple of brands that have announced that they're not going to do live shows, and that should be Dries Van Noten, Schiaparelli, Maison Margiela. Now, Maison Margiela, I'm not so sure if all of these are not going to do shows after all. They might change their mind last minute. But Schiaparelli, we know they're on a budget, so they're pretty happy with what they've done thus far. Those little 3 to 10 minute video clip presentations of their collections. We've seen it done for the last two haute couture shows, model or two, and then they kind of close up zoom, showing how they're getting their makeup done, stuff like that, to create a mood and a zhuzh. Collections that don't encompass 80 pieces, so it's kind of doable. You don't really need a fashion show because you don't have enough pieces to really warrant a fashion show that wouldn't last more than 5 minutes, but you got 5 pieces to show, and then what? So there's that to consider as well. So some brands are kind of maybe still using this lockdown situation, for lack of a better word. Well, we have a better word, we just don't want to use it on YouTube. But the situation that warrants us not to do live shows, but some of these brands are kind of still using that lockdown situation to not do live shows, when in reality they're not doing them not because of the lockdown, they're not doing them because they don't have enough pieces to show. Just throwing some shade out there. And of course, the brands that do have live shows are probably going to broadcast them also live, so for whoever is at home will get a chance to see them, on the respective YouTube channels of these brands or their websites. Mostly it's done through YouTube nowadays, so people just sit at home, click, tune in, show begins, and they watch it. These past 2 or 3 or 4 seasons during lockdown, a lot of these brands pre-recorded their fashion shows or their fashion presentations without audiences, or with very limited invited ambassadors of the brand as audience. They would film that, produce it, edit it, and then they would stream it at a given time. They would say, hey, the presentation of the collection is happening at that date, that time, YouTube channel, live stream, tune in. That's going to change now, because now they will, for the most part, live stream as it's happening again, because we're going back to invited guests and audiences. Now, what I want to know from you guys, what do you feel about this? Is this something Gwen leases ambassadors? You mean influencers? No, Gwen. When during the lockdown, they were not inviting really influencers. They were. I mean, when it comes to Chanel, for example, you know, they had Penelope Cruz. She's the brand ambassador in that case of Chanel. She was in the audience. Vanessa Paradis was in the audience. Like they invited, you know, or for their Métier d'Art collection, for the Chateau de Dames, there was only Kristen Stewart. She was the only person sitting down watching the fashion show. She no influencer. She's a brand ambassador. She's a actress. So that's what I mean by brand ambassadors. When it comes to influencers, influencers are now being invited again to the shows. So influencers are going to be front row or second row to the shows once the shows start happening all over again. So that's the differentiation to make between these brand now you can have in some cases influencers being given the role of brand ambassadors. That happens as well, but sheesh, you know what I mean? If that happens, we got a problem. But Houston, we have a problem. But yeah. So I personally really enjoyed that one full season we got of total lockdown where the brands really got creative, created almost short movies, short films with their presentations. I'm still loving Christian Dior's Haute Couture show with the tarot cards. I thought that was really beautiful, and it's such a pity that we're done with that, that now they're just back to doing what they do, the fashion show. You know, with the catwalk, as much as I love a catwalk, if I ain't there to see the stuff live, I don't really care too much for seeing it later on, recorded. I'd much rather prefer seeing a constructed art work as an art video, short video, that gives me the mood and the vibe that the artistic director of the collection really wanted to convey through the clothes, rather than just sitting at home watching a quick pass by of models wearing the clothes one after the other while the cameras kind of film the models, but the cameras are also told to shift to film the front row of the VIPs invited so that the brand can show off that they have celebrities in the front row. That's like super cringe to me, but they resort to whatever they can. They resort to all these cheap ploys, which cost a pretty penny to them, because you best believe these actors don't come for free. They are luxury hoes after all, aren't they? So there's this whole thing, you know, this whole construct of fashion and how it works and functions. It needs to be brought back to how it was before the lockdown. And it's such a pity, because there was so much potential that I've seen in these 1.5 years of lockdown that I thought, wow, fashion really gets an opportunity here to develop in new directions. And instead, what I'm seeing instead is they're all just trying to cheap out, do as quick as they can, just go revert to whatever was done before because it's easy, they know it best. It's lazy is what it is. This is what I feel, at least, that it's a very, very, very lazy thing to do. You've had this opportunity to begin something brand new, initiate something new, and instead, what did you do? Nothing. And listen, we all had to struggle. We all had to find new ways to define ourselves. Why doesn't fashion have to find new ways to define itself? I think it's still sitting pretty comfortable where it's at. I don't think that their losses were that big to still impact them the way that they fear that potentially in the future their losses might impact them. There have already been losses, but nothing to warrant major brands saying, oh, sorry, we're out of business. You know, we haven't come there yet. We're not there yet. Dior has not declared bankruptcy yet. We're far from there. So there's a lot of room for improvement. There's a lot of room for experimentation. There's a lot of room for further developing the conversation and the artistry, not just of the garments, but also of the presentation of said garments. So I feel that everything is becoming more lazy rather than having used the opportunity to become more productive and creative. I, for one, because of the lockdown and all the gigs that I lost, was forced to become more productive and more creative, and I loved it. Managed to raise more on my YouTube channel, open up also new YouTube channels, enhance the conversation with you guys. So I'm one of those people that try to turn the worst case scenario of this lockdown into something positive and beautiful, which is creating a community, conversing with you guys. Why didn't the fashion brands do that too? They had such an opportunity to do it. Instead, what did they do? Oh, they created nice masks, expensive masks, visors and stuff, that they can sell for an expensive price for you. I mean, sure, they are really interesting staple pieces that I might even consider getting. I got from some brands as well, because for the few 20 years from now, you're going to have these masks thinking, wow, this was a specific time in history. But like more, what did they do more than that? We remember at the beginning of the lockdown, Dior saying, oh, we're turning our factory for our, Maison Dior creams and the body range, the liquid soaps and all those containers. Now we're going to put disinfectants in. We're going to use all our containers to fill them with disinfectants. So we're going to... thank you so much, Louis.
Imlu donated $5. Nada más diciendo hola, desde Mexico. Taking naps so I can go out to the streets.
Gracias, Louis. Enjoy Mexico, my love. Have fun. Have fun and be safe. Ooh. Thank you so much for the Duniel, Sean. And have a good nap. And I have no clue what I was talking about. So anyway, so I had the opportunity to change and evolve and to reinvent myself. And I have the feeling these brands also could have really done a lot. And instead, most of them are just reverting to literal amoebas that maybe because they are so afraid of losing so much money, they are, most of them, what I've noticed thus far, are reverting to minimalism, like safe. Play it as safe as possible. Just make stuff that we know we sold last season really well. Let's just redo the same. Step it up a notch, create a little bit more of a seasonal palette now, but that's that. It's boring. And the whole construct of the fashion show itself, and then who gets to be front row and showing off that you're in the front, it's so boring. It's so old. I don't care to see who's in the front row of the fashion show. I really don't. And I also don't care to see the models just passing by me like that. I actually want everything hanging on hangers, and I want to touch it and feel it myself. Like that's kind of, and I want my time to have my time to go through the whole collection on my time. That's what I feel is modern right now. Maybe it's just me. What do you guys, I don't know. I love the perfume channel, says Rhonda. Thank you so much, Rhonda. Gwen says, oh, I like celebrities. Now I want to read more here because this is more actual. Oh, well, there's no comment. I can't scroll here, you guys. I just read that Bureau Betak made over 100 million, this is Donnie, in 2019, mostly from producing fashion shows and related events. That's how much actual resources put into these perhaps now relevant presentations. I mean, what are we talking is irrelevant? I mean, I'm not saying that a fashion show is irrelevant. I mean, you have your buyers come in as well. Usually what happens on fashion shows, half of it's split in two. The catwalk in the middle. On one side, you got your celebrities, influencers, PR. The PR list is on one side. Sales list is on the other side. On one side of the runway, you have all the buyers, the shops, the boutiques, all the people that spend the money. And on the PR side, you got the people that you want to photograph. So that the brands can show that these important people were at the show. Okay, now, I couldn't care less for the PR side. Now, the buyer side, of course, for the buyers, they need some sort of fashion show. They need to see how the models walk in it, how it flows. But I can tell you from personal experience, buyers are also fed up with this, seeing freaking Gigi Hadid 50,000 times. Nobody wants to see that anymore. Like, I don't care, If I'm buying for my store, I'm not going to have multi-operated people with plumped up lips, 3 ribs taken out of their rib cage to be slender, to have the perfect body. I'm not going to have that type of clientele. Maybe a couple, but most of the people I'm going to sell to have normal human bodies. So that's also something that it's really annoying of seeing, like okay, yeah, looks great. Another skinny bitch wearing a skinny garment that's tailored to the skinny bitch. That you're not going to sell in that size, maybe a couple of times to a couple of people who have been starving themselves to death to fit into that outfit. But for the most part, a buyer wants to see, how does this garment look on a normal person, on a person who actually has the money in terms also of quantity of potential customers. What does this mean? This means that in my store, I want to get as many customers as possible to come to my store. Now, if I limit my collection to only size 0, you can imagine what small amount of customers I'm going to cater to. If I expand my range to not just 0, but the whole size range, and I actually get to see that the clothes that you're trying to sell me on the runway actually fit bigger sizes as well, in that case, I'm interested to see a fashion show. A fashion show that shows me how my true clients that are not just size 0 are going to actually fit in these clothes. That's when a fashion show makes sense to me. Otherwise, no. I don't need to see Gigi freaking Hadid in yet another runway wearing, again, the same stuff over and over again. That doesn't help me sell. It doesn't really. It's quite obnoxious, to be honest with you. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Subscribe to my video, thumb it up, and I mean, you guys could read the chats while I was blabbering on. So this is the beauty of having these chats scrolling by on the side. Let me know in the comment section down below what your opinions are on this topic as well. Would love to hear from you. Rhonda says, bravo, Dacob, tell it like it is. Thank you so much. No, I mean, I'm so sick and tired of this. And then heaven forbid you have something to say about these models. Who cares? I'm not buying the freaking model. And I don't want the model to sell me anything, okay? If the brand is Moschino, New York Fashion Week, sure, Jeremy always says he discovered the... I already forgot her name. I just said her name a minute ago. Anyway, her and her sister. And so she runs for him a lot. I guess they're big friends. I'm like, who cares? Who cares? I want to see the clothes. Now, a really cool thing about Moschino was he actually let a lady in a wheelchair who has some disability on the runway. But that's a token. Because obviously, you're not going to have a lot of people. It's like a size 0. How many people that has... I don't exactly know which condition the lady has. It's hard to use the right words, politically correct times. I don't know if it's a condition, if it's a dysmorphia or what it is. I don't know. But she is in a wheelchair and the body does have a dysmorphic shape. So, but anyway, dressed in Moschino, she's lovely, super sense of humor. But it's a token because again, just like the 0 size model, how many people in a wheelchair in that position are going to come to your boutique to buy Moschino clothes? If you have a boutique and you're buying, it's a token. As great and as inclusive as it is to have seen her on that runway in the wheelchair, and it is beautiful, it truly is, it's still a token. It's just so that we talk about it. And we're talking about it. It's like, hey, look who I let run down the runway. Aren't I amazing? And no, you see, that doesn't fly with me. No, you're not amazing. What you are, I'm super happy. I hope that the lady was paid and paid properly. Yeah, best believe she wasn't paid not even 1/100th of what Gigi was paid. But that's a whole other can of worms, right? But this is just so that you could say, you, Jeremy, with Moschino, look how amazing we are, how inclusive we are. Really? Are you that inclusive? I don't think so. You know what would have been inclusive? If you actually designed an affordable wheelchair, functional, affordable wheelchair for people who have that particular disability. Instead, you're just dressing her up in clothes that you want to sell to people who can walk. But you're showing her as a token on the runway as like how special you are to be so inclusive. I find that actually quite vulgar. So step it up a notch, Jeremy and co. Make a freaking wheelchair that actually is functional. Collaborate with the proper authorities, with the proper scientists and doctors, and design something that actually a person who needs a wheelchair of that particular type can actually have something from this brand. And don't overcharge a luxury surcharge for the wheelchair just because Moschino designed it. You see what I mean? If Franco Moschino was still alive, he would be ashamed of what you did. Because he would have definitely gone for the actual wheelchair and would have designed something for that person rather... I'm going on a rant. I know this has nothing to do with the topic anymore. We started off with, is it okay to go back to runways or not? Anyway, you guys, you know what I mean? Ale. The fake inclusiveness is Victoria H. This is exactly my point. It makes me really upset. And as much as I am so happy for that lovely, lovely lady who was on that runway and she had a blast and I'm sure she enjoyed herself. I mean, I hope she did at least. I mean, that's all good and fine. But like, the brand used you. They might have paid you. They probably did. But ultimately, they used you for their own purposes. Not because they want to be really inclusive. No, just because they want to be... You did good, praised. And I find that typical fashion. That's typical for fashion. Just Yapping says, Yas Dacob, I work with the special needs kids and you speak truth. Thank you so much. Victoria H says special needs, I think, is the new term. Leslie says, rant all you want, loving it, says Leslie. DVA says special needs sounds so patronizing. You guys, we cannot, we live in politically correct times, okay? I have 2 legs and I can use them and I can walk. Thank the lords and nature, whatever, if you believe or not believe in the gods, whatever you believe in or not believe in. I'm very thankful and very humbled that I can walk. And so obviously because I can walk, technically in these times, I'm not even allowed to talk about who cannot walk because I cannot feel their pain. I cannot feel the struggles. I can try to imagine it, but obviously I can never reach that level of understanding fully how it is for them to go through this hell. Maybe some of them are even going to tell you it's not hell for me. This is my reality. Why should that be hell for me? So you know what I mean? Like no matter what you say, you're going to say something wrong. So that's why I'm not focusing on the lovely lady that was in the wheelchair on the runway. I'm focusing on Moschino, on those Oompa Loompas that have feet, that can walk, that sit at their little marketing desks and plan out how clever little, you know, the little escamotages they're going to do for the runway to raise awareness about certain things. Raise awareness about certain things? What things? Oh, raise awareness about the brand. Oh, I get it. Right. Okay. I see right through you, boo-boo. And this is the point. So this I can talk about. This I can talk about. And I do talk about. So shoot me. What are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? Really annoying. Anyway, you know. Holly Grace says, I don't agree with not being able to talk about it. It helps to speak about others' perspectives of life. For sure. For sure. For sure. But I'm just saying, I don't have a guest right now calling in who actually has that type of disability to actually share with me their opinion. Okay, this is just some white privileged dude who can walk ranting. You know, for sure, I don't have the right to do that because I'm now taking the right to speak for people that actually have a disability. Now, that's why I was very clear and I said, hold on a minute. I'm not speaking for the person that has a disability. I'm speaking for the brand who doesn't have a disability. And I think what the brand did, that's what I'm criticizing here, the actual brand, what they did was sneaky, to say the least, you know, and I'm using a euphemism here, sneaky. It was sneaky. I find it sneaky. Now they're going to come for you saying, well, what's it going to be? Because better raising some awareness than not raising any awareness. And then you're left there like with a pile of shit on your head. Like, oh, you see, you're such a snob, so you don't want to show anybody with a disability. I'm like, no, that's not the point. If you can't just show a token, then design a whole wheelchair for that person. First thing. Second thing, if you are donating part of the proceeds to that particular disability, that's also very commendable. Fine. But again, you're donating proceeds because it's tax deductible. And it still works in your favor to raise awareness about your brand. So it's sneaky. I find it quite deceiving, to be honest with you. That type of, then why do I need freaking Gigi Hadid? Then make a whole collection dedicated to people with disabilities. Work with your creative, you have an amazing talented team in your creative team at Moschino. Work with them a whole season to actually develop clothes that are practical for people with disabilities, to help them maybe put on clothes on their own so that they don't need always the help of others. Maybe there's a way to develop a technique, and you can because you have your ateliers. Why don't you develop a whole collection for people with disabilities to cater to their needs? Work on that. Develop that. Then I'm going to say, now that's something cool. You made a whole collection dedicated to particular type of disabilities. Try to cater to other people's needs, not just to your own as a brand, trying to show to the whole world, look how good we are. We had one person with a wheelchair on the runway. Make a whole collection dedicated to a disability. Invent new ways to put on clothes that you might not think, you know, buttons in the front are super easy. Maybe it doesn't work buttons in the front for some person. Maybe some other person needs a different way of putting on clothes. So you should develop a whole system of putting it from the side instead of from the front or from the back. That is something where I say that's where fashion should develop. That's where you bring in innovation. None of that happened on their runway. And what are we talking about here, you guys? Come on. Anyway, As a creative director, now you have to be interested in changing the lifestyle, not only the look, says Paris. Help and grow the needs of your consumers. Girl, the only thing that these artistic directors have is they have to reach their quotas. The sales have to work at the end of the season. The sellout has to work. And if it doesn't, they're out the door pretty soon. Just saying. Just saying, you guys. I'm tired of this. Julie Scott says, the one good thing I can see about the lady in the wheelchair being a model is that many people who are in a may feel these clothes may not look good on them. No, it looks great on her. And she was glowing. Again, I'm not saying she should not be wearing that stuff. I'm saying more power to you, girl. You look freaking like $1,000,000. I have beef with the brand, not with her. Isabella, I agree with you. I think this lockdown was and still is a great time for innovation. Yeah, if somebody actually uses it for innovation. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you like this video. If you have, thumb it up, subscribe to my channel, follow me on all my Instagram shenanigans. And until next time, never forget to never give up on love. Love you all. See you soon. Take care. Bye. Mwah.